Hi everybody, my name's Ian.
And I'm Lindsay.
Welcome to the Marking Milestones podcast, and today
we're going to be talking about the Rosary with you guys. So we're just going to jump right in it. What is the Rosary exactly for people that don't know, maybe? And I know some of y'all probably already know what that is, but we're going to jump deep into what is the Rosary and what is the purpose of the Rosary, how the Rosary can be used.
Definitely, there's a much deeper meaning to the Rosary than just saying your prayers and having it around your hands.
Right, exactly. And we'll break down like each of the prayers for you guys and just talk about them. So, what is the Rosary exactly? When you think about a Rosary, most people know what the Rosary looks like. It's a set of beads. It has the cross on it with Jesus. And, I mean, some people might just be looking at that like, it's just a set of beads. Like, I don't know exactly what that is.
I know a lot of people, for years, they only associate it with keeping count during their prayer.
Right.
They don't go any deeper than, I'm just keeping count on my prayer.
And I find that, whenever we used to say the Rosary all the time, I would kind of be like that. Like, I would just be, like, going through the motion of it, just saying it, and not actually knowing what each mystery is about, I guess, and really thinking about it. And we're going to get into the mysteries.
Yeah.
But what is the Rosary exactly? I mean, it's known as a set of prayers for the Catholic Church, because it's a Catholic thing.
Yeah.
And physically, it's a string of beads. You know, sometimes it can be just like cloth beads, like into knots. They'll make them.
Yeah. So actually, now that you mentioned that, I have that I keep around my wrist a decade. Which, I don't know if I can kind of see it, but it has 10 little knots in it and a cross on it that I can keep count with. If I ever want to walk around, if I'm saying the prayers in my head, I have the 10 knots.
You can say whenever you want to because you have it on there for you. Yeah. My husband wears something like that too. So, you use the beads to count how many prayers you're going to say for each decade. And then they have, how many decades do we have? 5? Yeah, 5. 5 decades of the Rosary, and each one has an Our Father and 10 Hail Marys, and then you say a Glory Be.
Right.
So it actually comes from a Latin word, and it means garland of roses, which symbolizes Mary. So the Rosary actually symbolizes the Blessed Mother. So whenever you're saying it, you're like saying the Rosary like in honor of her.
Right. Well, you're almost even in my mind saying it with her.
Yes, and we're gonna get into that because I have something really deep to talk about that I read somewheres, and every time I say the Rosary now, I think about that, and it's like amazing.
I had a teacher years ago. I was probably in like 4th grade, I think, and we would always say a Rosary before class started.
Oh, cool.
But oftentimes, we had days where a test was that day or something was going on, so we couldn't finish the Rosary. So she would always say I don't remember word for word the special prayer that she would say, but it was a prayer that would allow the Blessed Mother to finish the Rosary for us.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I don't exactly know what the prayer was, what the teaching was. But anytime we couldn't physically finish it, that day she would ask the Blessed Mother to finish it for us, and she would say the Rosary for us.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look up to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah.
Because sometimes that happens, or like I tend to say the Rosary a lot of times when I'm rocking my children to sleep. Like I'll put it on YouTube and I'll listen to it because they have that too where you can listen to it.
Yeah.
And so I'll do that, and then sometimes like one will start crying. I don't know, just
well,
so if you can't finish it.
Life happens around us, and I think the Lord kind of understands that.
Oh yeah.
And Blessed Mother definitely understands that. I mean, life isn't always exactly how we want it to be. So at some point you're gonna have times where your prayers or whatever you're doing, not just prayer, can stop. Right. Whatever you're doing right then and there.
Nothing's perfect.
Right. So
so from there, what is the purpose of the Rosary? So this, when I kind of read about it, I'm like, geez, like I like wasn't really doing that before. Like really putting myself in my mindset, thinking about the mysteries. Um, and that's how you should say the rosary. Like
Right.
you should be thinking about each mystery while you say the decade.
Yeah.
Um, and really putting yourself like picturing Jesus like
Mhm.
each time for each thing. So like we're gonna get into like each one.
Yeah. I definitely think like you're kind of going into, and what I did as well. When you're saying the rosary, when you're looking at the mysteries of certain things like that, we've been so ingrained in tradition that we don't stop and really analyze and learn what everything that we're doing means.
Exactly.
Everything becomes very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You don't sit there and genuinely try to have a connection with what you're learning and what you're doing. Instead, you're just doing it. Which, you know, in hindsight, in outward looking, you know, you see somebody saying the rosary, you think, oh, that's great, that's wonderful. But do you really get the grasp? Like, are you really grasping what you're doing?
Right.
Or are you just going through the motions like you talked about earlier?
That's right.
Which I think is great.
Which I would do like a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
But then I'm like reading stuff and I'm like, oh, like.
And I think it goes for almost everything too.
Yes.
Like we're using the rosary as an example because we have such a strong connection to it.
Right.
But it goes for everything in life. I think that people have become too ingrained on doing the everyday mundane, going through the motions.
You don't even know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Anymore.
You know, you're not stopping and thinking about the bigger picture.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. So it's to help keep in memory the certain principal events or mysteries in history from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a devotion in honor of the Virgin Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first prayer that you would normally say whenever you're about to say the rosary would be the Apostles' Creed. And that expresses the teachings of the apostles.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I read that, I'm like, yes, I know the Apostles' Creed and I would say it, but it actually expresses the teachings of the apostles.
Right.
I wasn't,
yeah,
thinking about that.
Well, it's amazing the more you dive into it, and the more you'll talk about it from what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Every piece of the rosary almost has a piece of everybody that has touched the Bible in a way.
Exactly.
You know, you have your apostles, you have the Blessed Mother, Jesus,
mm-hmm.
The Lord Himself giving the divine inspiration to each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all connected and intertwined.
The
and
Holy Trinity is all,
yeah.
So the Our Father is the Lord's Prayer,
mm-hmm.
and that's the first prayer that you say. So when you first started, you would say the Apostles' Creed, and then your first bead here would be the Our Father, and then you would say 3 Hail Marys, which is the prayer to Mary, and then the Glory Be, which is sometimes called the Gloria, would be your last prayer. And then once you finish with all of your decades, so you would come around and you would say an Our Father, 10 Hail Marys, Glory Be, and go all the way around to your 5 decades. You would say a closing prayer, which is the Hail Holy Queen, and that is in praise of the Blessed Mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's very important too that we say, because I mean we are part of the Catholic Church, that people often mistake the Rosary or the Hail Holy Queen and certain prayers as specifically only worshiping and praising Mary.
Right.
That almost giving her God-like titles.
Right.
Which is not.
That's not true.
It's not true. It's not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
When we say the Rosary, when we do these things, when we say the Hail Holy Queen, when we in a way worship and give praise towards Mary, we're asking her to succeed our prayers, to push them, to push them further towards the Father.
Right. Because they are connected.
Yeah.
I mean, that is God's mother. That is
mm-hmm.
Jesus' mother.
Yeah.
So think about it. And then people have a devotion to her.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
They're connected.
The praise, the worship, the devotion towards her is to share thanks for what she did, and also, what she did. Could you, as a human being in today's world, genuinely do what she did? She said yes to the most powerful question, the most self-giving, question. Is like, are you going to carry this child? Are you going to praise me alone, the Father, and are you going to do it correctly in how I say? And she
Right.
said yes without a question.
She obeyed no matter what.
Right.
And who could say that they could do that?
Right.
You know.
And so yeah, we don't praise her as a God. We praise her as the woman that gave us God almost.
Right.
On this earth.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I think that's
I
important
think that
to say.
she doesn't get enough credit.
Definitely.
For what she has done, and Joseph also, because he had to, he took Mary and took care of her, and he didn't have to do that. Like,
well, he almost, in a way, sacrificed his humanity to build a home for the Lord.
Right. Right.
He had his wife come to him and tell him these things that, let's be honest, we wouldn't just like immediately say, yeah, absolutely, God told you that. I mean, we would probably hear that nowadays.
And he
even
didn't.
be
Like,
devoted.
he was like,
right.
Whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah, exactly. At first, he wasn't,
right.
super excited about hearing that. I mean, nobody really would be, because you wouldn't think.
They're human.
Yeah. But even hearing that, and over time, he finally understood what God was trying to tell him, and he had the dream. If you ever go and read the Bible and understand the stories, you'll know what I'm talking about. But he ultimately, stood up and became a man that day, and raised this child as his own. Did not matter, it was his kid.
Yeah.
He became the foster father on earth.
Right.
For Jesus.
Right. And that's how we are to our children, because our children are God's children.
Right.
He's just lending them to us right now to teach them his ways,
right.
and to bring them to him eventually.
And that all goes back to, kind of going off on a tangent here, and I apologize, but it all goes back to all of us being children of God, and that our main mission is to get each other to heaven.
That's right. That's right.
I don't even care what people believe in. Ultimately, we all know that the one true truth is that we're here to help each other.
Right.
We're here to learn, and we're here to do good. Whether you're Catholic or whatever religion you are, but ultimately we all know that. And I think it's something that we've somewhat lost along the way, and we're trying to get back. And hopefully, y'all can learn a thing or two if y'all don't really know the Rosary. And but yeah, so from there.
And anyone can say the Rosary.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So going back to the decades, and they have 5 decades of the Rosary. Each decade should be meditated on the mysteries, like we talked about, that are associated with that decade. So certain days or certain mysteries that you would say, and I don't know if I have it right here or not, but if you're not meditating on the mysteries, then it's kind of like, what is the point of you saying it? Yes, the prayers are powerful. I'm not saying that, but you should be meditating on what you're saying the prayers for, like what mystery that you're saying them for. Because it's like you're reliving the stories in the Bible when you say in the Rosary.
Yeah, 100%. The Rosary becomes a deep meditation on the stories. Do you have each mystery right here, or do you have a few?
I have each mystery. I don't have what days. We have to let y'all know.
Yeah, we'll definitely let y'all know
in the comments or something if y'all want to know that.
For sure. But yeah, so different mysteries have different parts of Jesus' life, different parts of Mary's life. So it's the first one goes joyful, and then sorrowful, and then glorious. And it's funny that everything's almost in threes for some of this stuff, because it's all the Trinity. It's all connected.
Right.
Joyful. Mary first gets the announcement that she's going to have Jesus from the angel Gabriel, and so that's at the beginning of Mary's life into Jesus' life, his young life, and then it goes to the sorrowful, which is the passion, and the glorious, where he's resurrected. So if you want to jump into that and kind of go.
Okay, so the joyful mysteries start with the Annunciation.
Which the Annunciation is whenever the angel Gabriel came to Mary and announced, saying that you're going to carry the Son of God in your womb, and you're going to have the Son of Man, the Son of God on this earth.
Yes, and that can be found in the book of Luke, Luke 1:26 through 38, the Annunciation, if you wanted to read it in the Bible. Then the next one is the Visitation.
Which the Visitation is, after hearing this news, not really sure what to do, Mary goes and visits her cousin, which her cousin is also carrying John the Baptist. And when she sees Mary, the baby in her cousin's belly
leaps
for joy because the Son of Man, the Son of God, is there with him.
How that's so special.
Absolutely.
And that can be found Luke 1:40 through 56 in the Bible. The next one is the Nativity, which...
So the Nativity is the birth of Jesus. The story that most people know, most people see, the nativity scene being put out during Christmas time, which we just passed, and it was wonderful. Yeah, so it's the time whenever, at that time specifically, they heard the people that were ruling over that area had heard news of a Savior being born, and they didn't like that too much. So they decided to kill all the firstborns. And when Joseph dreamt that night, he was told by the angel to leave. Get up and leave before y'all are killed, because they do not like that y'all are having this child. So they decide to leave, and they make it to Bethlehem, which they, kind of have to have a kid in a barn. It's not really a king's birth, but and that's also kind of explained that it's not just a king's birth. He was put on this earth for the sinners, and so he had almost an average low birth.
Right.
He was put in a manger for animals.
Right.
Which is, it's almost...
It goes back to, like, us talking about how there's not enough credit for, like, the Blessed Mother and Joseph.
Yeah.
Just think about it. He had this dream, and he knew that people were going to be chasing after them, and he had to get Mary and the Son of God out.
Yeah.
They're running from these people. He's trying to take care of them. How scared they must have been.
Yeah.
And then any mother knows, giving birth, you in a hospital, you can choose to take medicine if you want to, but she had to give birth in a barn. Like...
Well, yeah. A lot of women at that time died in childbirth because it was so painful. They couldn't handle the pain, and
there's a lot of things that is like...
Yeah, for her to be basically in like this cave barn looking area with a bunch of animals just hanging around. Yeah.
And I'm sure that they knew that God was on their side.
Absolutely.
And that he was going to make sure they trusted. They trusted 100%, and they obeyed.
Which, and like you said earlier, they don't get enough respect, enough honor, because I feel as if I could not do what they did. There's no way. I'd be too afraid, and I'd be in too much pain.
Yeah. Okay, so that could be found in Luke 2:6 through 20. And then we go into, this is all still joyful mystery, the presentation of Jesus in the temple.
Yeah, so at this time, Jesus is already born, and he's become like, a young child. He's still on the young side, he's not yet a teenager, he's not yet ready for his mission, his purpose on earth. And during this story specifically, they're planning a family. The whole family is planning on moving on from where they're at currently to another place. But before they could do so, Jesus himself goes to the temple and is teaching the prophets and teaching the all these like wonderful people with wisdom what they should know.
As a child.
And they're amazed with him. They don't understand how he knows and has all this wisdom, but he's sitting there with these teachers, these scholars, these people of wisdom that are praised by the people of this time, and a child of only like possibly 7 years old is telling these old men what's right and what's wrong, and they're amazed by it.
And Mary and Joseph can't find him.
And they can't find him, and they're freaking out, as any parent would, like how would you feel if
Yeah.
I'm not yet a father. I'm not yet a parent in any way, shape, or form. I have my godchildren, but that's about the closest I am right now to having a kid.
That's where I struggle with worry, and I have to trust God, and I have to ask Him to help me with that, because I worry about things like that. Stay by me, and like
definitely.
don't stray away from me.
Because you know that you want your kids to be kids. But you also, in the world that we're living in currently, it's terrifying. We don't know what could happen, and the same goes for back then and what they had to go through.
Right.
So at some point they finally find him, and they find him surrounded by these men of wisdom, and the men of wisdom are being taught
by
their son. They're not teaching him. They're sitting there and they're learning from this child. God himself is sitting in the temple as a child and teaching these men what they need to know.
And so that jumps into the finding of the child Jesus in the temple, and that's the last one of the joyful mysteries, and of course that's when they find Jesus in the temple.
Correct.
And then there's the sorrowful mysteries, and this kind of goes into
this jumps. I would say that the sorrowful jumps into his first ever miracle, his teachings,
the crucifixion.
And yeah. But before that, yeah. It jumps. It goes that now he's at a time where he's of the age of which he's ready for his mission, and he's here for it. And it'll jump from,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. No. So continue. Say your first one.
So the first one is the agony in the garden, and that's Matthew 26:36 through 46.
So, agony in the garden. At this time, Jesus is preparing for his mission, which is to die for our sins.
And he knows everything that's going to happen to him.
Correct. He is sitting in the garden, asking God, please, if it is your will, let it be done. But if possible, can you take this cup from me? I do not want to do this, but if you want me to, I will. I give full trust to you, Lord.
Because I want people to understand this too. Jesus came in a human form, so he's
God, but he still feels the physical repercussions of being human.
Right. So all those feelings of being terrified, he had.
He has them.
Yeah.
So much so that it is said that he was sweating blood while praying to the Lord to take this from him. Ultimately, he himself knew and the Lord knew that it had to be done. So continue to the next one.
So the next one is the scourging at the pillar.
So after which, actually, do you want to read off where the garden can be found, or did you read it already?
I read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where can this one be found?
So this one's Matthew 27:26. Yeah,
so the scourging of the pillar. So at this point, they've already arrested Jesus, and they take him to be beaten. It's here where he's whipped multiple times. His body is physically almost
beat down.
Yeah, destroyed. His physical form is hurt.
And have you ever seen the Passion of Christ?
Yeah, Christ.
That's really hard.
Definitely. I'd give anybody that is interested in learning about this, not sure where to start, definitely go and give the Passion a try. I think y'all would really enjoy it and kind of understand what Jesus went through and what his mother went through and what all the apostles went through.
And they don't speak English, but
it is in subtitles, but they're speaking Hebrewish, that type of language. So I definitely think it's a very interesting movie to watch. I think y'all should watch it. If you're interested in learning the early life of Jesus, definitely go give The Chosen a watch. It's definitely a really great show to watch. It's on Prime. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix now.
Yeah. So definitely go give that a shot.
Yeah. The next one is the crowning with thorns, and that's Matthew 27:29.
Yeah. So the crowning with thorns. At this point, they really want to humiliate him almost, claiming that he has claimed to be the king of the Jews. So they build him a crown of thorns and force it upon his head to wear. As mockery.
And they're making fun of him and spitting on him and just horrible.
And at this point, I think people, if you're really saying the Rosary and meditating on it, at this point when he puts the crown on, you're understanding how much physical, mental, spiritual abuse he took on for us. Everything was being thrown at him. No one else but him. Then it continues.
And then it goes to the carrying of the cross, which is John 19:17.
Yeah, so the carrying of the cross. Jesus, at this point, which no other man has ever had to do this but him, has had two punishments. Not only was he beaten at the pillars and scourged, but he also was going to be crucified. And he picked up his cross with courage. He picked it up because he knew it was what he had to do. He put that thing on his back and carried it all the way to Calvary. Didn't matter how long it took. He knew that the Lord needed him to do this, and he did it.
Do you remember who stops to help him?
Yes. I believe his name is Simon.
I think so.
Simon of I forget the exact name of the saint, but at some point Jesus falls. He falls in total 3 times, but at this moment specifically, I forget which exact falling it is. The Roman soldiers that have him force a man from the crowd that does not know Jesus at all to come and carry the cross with him, and he does so with a sense of humility and courage, and he gets up and he carries his cross with Jesus, and from this he becomes a great saint, because he's one of the men that genuinely helped Jesus in a time that his human form couldn't go on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and then it goes to
the crucifixion, which is Luke 23:33 through 46.
And ultimately, I think everybody kind of knows what the crucifixion is. This is where Jesus gave his life on the cross. They nailed him to the cross, put him up, mocked him, and it's where he fully gave his life, and even at the moment of death told his Father not to feel hate towards these people because they know not what they do. He even had his moment of doubt on the cross. Felt as though God left him, and it was because he was carrying all of our sins to sacrifice himself for us. So from the sorrowful mysteries, we jump to the glorious mysteries.
Mm-hmm. And so that goes into the resurrection of Jesus.
Right.
So that's the first one, which is the resurrection, and that's Luke 24:1 through 12.
Yeah, so resurrection is once they take Jesus' bodies down, they put him in the tomb, they lay him to rest. At the beginning of all this, whenever they had the Last Supper, whenever Jesus was letting his people know that this was going to happen, he told them that he will be back in 3 days, he will rebuild his church. And in doing so, he resurrected from the dead. The one thing that keeps, all of humanity down, death, he conquered it and resurrected.
And so now we go into the ascension, which is Luke 24:50 through 51.
Right. So the ascension. He stayed with the apostles for so many days until it was 40 days in total. Yeah. So
on the 40th day.
On the 40th day
of his resurrection.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, he says, "I have to go back with my Father in heaven, and I will be back to return. And when I return, it will be like almost it'll be on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be back to take my people with me, and the ones that do not follow me will be left behind." So he is brought up to heaven, back with the Father.
Mm-hmm. And then we go into the descent of the Holy Spirit, which is Acts 2:1 through 4.
Right. So once he goes to ascend into heaven, the Holy Spirit comes upon all the apostles, which gives them divine wisdom to start writing these books. It also gives them, if you've ever heard of the tongues, so no matter who they're speaking to, no matter where they travel, they were able to speak that language and give wisdom, the good news, which the gospel is, to all that need to follow Jesus all around the world.
Yeah. And then the last one is the coronation of Mary. No, I'm sorry. I skipped one, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
The assumption of Mary into heaven.
Right. So because Mary fully gave herself to be the mother of Jesus,
mm-hmm.
the Lord and Jesus, recognized this and brought her up body and soul, brought her up into heaven, mm-hmm. body and soul, mm-hmm. which is an immense honor, because only ones that we know of to ever have had this happen to them is Jesus, because he is Lord, and mm-hmm. Mary herself, because she carried him. Mm-hmm. So she's brought up, the mother of the Lord is brought up into heaven, body mm-hmm. and soul.
And then the last one is the coronation of Mary.
Right. So she has the queenship over the earth, over the heavens. She is, recognized to have this immense, great power with her, to be with the Father and the Son, mm-hmm. forever in heaven.
Yeah.
She's crowned. I mean, like we witnessed.
She's the queen of angels.
Right. She rules over that
Right.
with the Lord.
Right. So with all that, going through each mystery, and we talked about how when you are actually reciting the rosary, how you should be reliving the stories. I mean, it actually brings me to tears, like especially the sorrowful mysteries, because it's just hard to think about him doing that for us. Like, and I think about Mary too, the Blessed Mother, because that's her son, and like I can't imagine
Well,
like
she
my
was there.
son.
She was there, witnessing. I mean, you have to think about it too. That yes,
She knew everything also that would
absolutely,
take place.
absolutely. It was told to her that this
Right,
would happen.
right.
But I remember in the Passion, if you watch the movie, and I had a precept that told a story about this too. That was really really wonderful. You have to remember that yes, Jesus was God. He was man and God. But in his younger years, he was still a baby like the rest of us. He was still a child like the rest of us. Had to learn how to walk. Had to learn how to talk.
Right.
And this woman raised him. And when Jesus would fall as a child, and cry, she would run to him as his mother and had to witness him fall with a cross as a man.
And she couldn't do nothing.
She couldn't do anything. Her blood, her child, no longer could use the protection of his mother. And it was recognized by the both of them. They understood this mission. But as a mother, as a parent, her heart broke.
You had to have like
yeah.
It makes me.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that fully. And everybody out there being a mother, being a father, I mean, just being able to sit down and meditate with it and understand that, we are meant for more, our children are meant for more, and sitting there and having the feelings that, how did she feel and how would I feel as a parent? And I think it's a really great way to almost train yourself to be a parent. Like for a young person like myself and others out there that are my age, it teaches you, to be ready for almost anything. These children need you,
Yeah, sorry, y'all will find that I am a crier. So, it just touches my heart so much.
Yeah, so I think the reason why it hits us so hard and why we felt the need to really genuinely tell y'all about this and get y'all to start doing it with us is our grandmother. Would you like to kind of go into that?
Yeah, so our grandmother that we called, I'm sorry, this is going to be kind of...
Yeah, this is going to be hard. She genuinely was my best friend, our best friend. My grandmother genuinely is the whole reason why I have a connection to my faith and why I feel the need to travel and see the world and teach people about what I know and to learn from others as well. She was so powerful in her faith. I've never seen my grandmother be afraid of anything, not even death itself. And we actually lost her a few months ago, last year in 2022. And it was very, very, very hard for myself, for my family, my sisters, my mother, because she was such a part of us. It feels like you lose a part of yourself because there was such a great connection there between the two of us.
Yeah.
From an early age, growing up, she made sure that we went to church. She made sure that
she would bring how many grandkids? We had like I don't remember.
Well, at the time, so I'm one of the youngest in the family, so I kind of had just them to myself. I was the only one that had to stay with them at the time. Y'all are so much older. Y'all had like 7 or 8 of y'all.
Oh my goodness, she would take all of us every summer. So she watched all of us, and she would take us to church every day. And we sat right in the front, and everyone knew. It's like you just knew that you had to be wise and you had to obey. No one gave trouble. Like it was, and she had all these grandkids, in mass, because she literally, we call her Granny, and anybody that knows her called her Granny. Like
all my
all
friends
the
in high
younger
school,
kids.
all my friends in high school. I mean, like they'd come to which we'll get into that in a minute, but they'll come on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Talk about it in a second. But
And that was Granny.
that was Granny. Everybody knew
Yeah.
her as Granny. It was not, her name was Carmen. It wasn't Miss Carmen. It was Granny.
Yeah. It was literally, like, I feel like she was put here. It was literally her mission to get her family to heaven. Like, she would do anything. She would have did anything to make sure that we were in our faith, that we were going to make it there. Like, she would do anything for that.
She would have sacrificed anything for it.
Absolutely.
And
she was so obedient.
Absolutely. She gave so much of herself to the church. She would, she's been on a mission. She's been on retreats. She's helped people that you wouldn't believe. I mean, if anybody in my life is a role model for my faith and what I want to do with my life and why I want to travel and see people and learn from others is her. Absolutely, 100%.
She did RCIA, where she would teach classes.
She would teach classes about some of the stuff that we're telling y'all.
Right.
Definitely one of the greatest people to ever have known.
Oh, yeah. So each week, Granny and Papa, they would cook it was usually on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then they had to change the day because everyone couldn't kind of make it, but whoever could come. And it didn't matter if you were family or not. If you wanted to come,
you were coming.
You could come, and we would say the rosary every single week. We'd say the rosary first and all of our prayers, and then we would all sit down as a family at this huge long table.
This huge dining table.
Because they had room for everybody, and somehow always had enough food, no matter if it was 100 people or 10 people.
It was almost as if the Lord provided.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, there were times where it was 10 of us, because only 10 of us could make it, and there was times where it was 50, almost 100 people in that house, because,
everyone was there.
Everyone was there.
Yeah.
I mean, all of my friends were there, all of y'all friends was there. I mean, and it was, I'm getting chills talking about it. It was such an amazing privilege to have, because not many people are able to have that with their family, and I feel so sorry for those people that don't do it or can't do it, because having the opportunity to sit there with my family, say a prayer with them, and then share a meal in thanks and remembrance of the great things that we've had throughout our lives, and just sit there and laugh. I've never seen anybody
laugh and talk and tell stories, and it was just.
It was so amazing,
and
I cannot stress it enough for all of you listening, to start this with your families. If you don't feel as if the Rosary's calling you to be part of it, I understand. Not everybody is called to that. I definitely think having a form of prayer with it will change your lives forever. But definitely share a meal, share a prayer and a meal with the people that you love.
It's beautiful to do that together.
We've lost our humanity. We've lost our connection to the people around us. Whether that be because of phones or just life is crazy. And I've even seen myself do the same thing, where I just go off on my own and not visit with people that I love.
The world has fallen out of love.
It has 100%, and and I hope to teach y'all how to. If somehow along the way you might have forgotten how to, or you don't feel as if it's still present. Definitely, I would say family and friends, because friends, as we all know, become family throughout the years.
Yeah.
Every single one of my brothers, if y'all are listening, y'all know that y'all are family to me. And share a meal with them, share a prayer with them, sit with them, laugh with them. You never know.
Talk with them. You never know when someone might need something and ask the Lord to speak through you. I do it all the time. Like, because sometimes you might not know the answer to something that somebody's asking, but they need help. And He does it. Like,
absolutely.
He will speak through you.
Absolutely. And look, we all know from experience loss. We don't know when we wake up. Tomorrow's not promised. It never is. And this is a great way to feel that connection with those people, even the ones that are gone. I've had moments with friends where we cook a big meal at the house, and we might say like just a blessing. It's just enough. It's a little prayer for all of us, and then we have a meal together, and we will sit there until midnight, just bringing back stories and stories and stories of memories from the past, and we've all lost people. We've lost people in my class. We've lost family members. We've lost people that are very close to us, and we remember them, and we bring them back to that dinner table with us.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the same. We go to Mom's every Sunday.
Absolutely.
We eat together, and we do the same thing with my in-laws. We picked a day that everybody can come, and it's Wednesday nights is like family night over there, and everybody can come, and so we all go and we eat together, and we say our blessing before we eat. We don't say the rosary, but we do say our blessing before we eat. And at Mom's, we picked a day, like Sundays is the day, like we go to mass and then we go to Mom's after, and
say our blessing, and we
yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, the rosary to us is, I mean, it's so powerful. And Granny has taught us that it is so powerful.
I mean, we would not know how to actually recite the rosary
if it wasn't
for her. She's taught all her grandkids just how to.
And we have a cousin of ours, and I won't say his name if he doesn't want us to say it. I'm not sure if he does. But I remember me and him were picked to speak about her for her funeral, and he said something that stuck with me forever, and it is so true about her, is that she saw her grandkids, these children, as soldiers of the Lord, because she knew that we were going to grow up in a world that wasn't always full of love, always wasn't the greatest place, and that we need to be somewhat of soldiers. We need to be somewhat of in tune with our faith to fight against that evil, to have a weapon, to have this meaning in life, be prepared to fight. Share that love with everybody, and be prepared to fight for the ones that you love. And she knew that wholeheartedly, and she taught us, right.
And so, like, digging into just how powerful the rosary is, I was sent you something the other day about Padre Pio, and how he would say that the rosary is like a weapon. And so I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Padre Pio, I mean, one of the greatest saints we will ever know on this earth, almost more of a modern saint than he is a past saint. And I mean, he straight up would say the rosary as a weapon against evil. He felt the need when his church was being attacked, when his people were being attacked, that saying the rosary was the best means of defense. He didn't call it a weapon of mass destruction. He called it a weapon against evil. He called it a weapon of great defense, because if at any moment that you feel attacked, that you feel as if evil is coming into your life, say the rosary. It is one of the greatest weapons the Catholic holds. You can...
Okay.
Sorry about the cut, guys. We're back now. We had a little problem with the phones and the cameras and the mics and everything, but we're good now. So, yeah. So what I was talking about earlier was Padre Pio.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And how he used it as somewhat of a weapon. And like I said earlier, it wasn't a weapon of mass destruction. It wasn't a weapon to attack. It was a weapon of defense. If at any moment that you feel that you're being attacked, and I have a story actually. That I watched this documentary a few months ago, and it's funny that months ago I read this and watched this, and then now we're talking about this kind of stuff. This guy, he grew up in a house that, and I apologize, I don't know the name of the video. If y'all look it up on YouTube, I'm sure y'all can find it after I kind of explain it. This guy, he grew up in a house that was a family of Satanists. He grew up in black masses, which, if you don't know what that is, it's where they worship the devil. They worship evil. They don't worship the Lord. They don't worship God. In all things good, they worship the bad. And he grew up learning how to attack Catholics, how to attack Christians, and any person of any good faith. His mission wasn't just Catholics. His mission wasn't just Christians. His mission was to destroy anything that was good. And he came upon this small town that he he was tasked with taking down, destroying the Catholic faith in that town. And the way he explains it is that it was very mental and spiritual warfare. So he would mentally attack and use evil means to break down this church, to break down the people in this town. And at one point, he's doing his practice, and he can physically see, in his mind, he can physically see the inside of the church. And what he sees inside the church is a group of Catholics saying the Rosary. And they're all saying it in unison. They're all saying it with such power, such physical presence and meaning, that he physically got pushed away from what he was doing. And because they were saying the Rosary, he could not attack.
Mm-hmm.
He could not do his means. He could not finish his task.
Wow.
And he continued to try and try and try, and he could not do it. And he felt physically sick, because it was almost as if the demons that have been pressured him into doing this were being pulled out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And from this, he completely abandoned the Black Mass. He completely abandoned what he was taught. He went on a pilgrimage. He fully gave himself to the Lord and started using the Rosary as a weapon himself.
Wow. How powerful is that?
Absolutely. And like I said, if y'all want to go look up about this guy, go on YouTube, search up, you know, in the search box, kind of look up a guy that talks about the Rosary being a weapon and how it was used against the Black Masses and that sort of thing. Very interesting, very great. But long story short, I'm kind of saying that because truthfully, it does become a weapon of defense. This town knew that they were being attacked. Bad things were happening in the town, and they felt the need to get the town together and say the Rosary. And doing so, they stopped this evil presence from attacking their church.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, kind of goes into, I had found something the other day that I had read, and so now, like, every time I say the Rosary, I think about this, and it is just so beautiful. So I wanted to read it. I'm actually going to read off of it, just because I want y'all to get, like, the full, from it. So it says, when you pray, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now. The Blessed Mother comes instantly to your side to pray with you, and she does not come alone. She brings angels with her, and not just one or two, for she is the Queen of Angels. So choirs of angels come with her, and she and Jesus are joined at heart, and they cannot be separated. So she brings Jesus with her, and Jesus cannot be separated from the Trinity. So he brings the Father and the Holy Spirit with him. And where the Holy Trinity is, all of creation is, and you are surrounded by such beauty and light as you cannot imagine in this life. Our mother comes as Our Lady of Grace, with her hands outstretched. Rays of light emit from her hands, piercing your body, healing you and filling you with graces. I'm going to say that again, because that's, like, awesome. She comes as Our Lady of Grace, with her hands outstretched, with rays of light emitting from her hands, piercing your body, healing you and filling you with graces. Every time you say the Rosary. This is your inheritance, which was poured out from the heart of Jesus on the cross. When they pierced his heart with the spear into the holy pure vessel, ready to receive such graces at that time, there was your mother. I mean, it just gives me, like, the chills. So I think about, I'm in a room with my babies, rocking them, saying the Rosary, and it's filled with the Blessed Mother, the Queen of Angels, with all of those angels, choirs of angels, with Jesus, because they joined at heart, with the Holy Trinity. Yeah.
See, and that's why it's such a powerful weapon, almost. You know, imagine you're up against, you know, this great army, and you have, you know, the most powerful weapon at hand for defense. They come to attack you, and you wipe them out instantly. That's almost what this is.
Right.
You know, when you're being attacked, when you're at this low point, you have a weapon at your side that brings forth the entire army of the Lord with you. Right. And I always go back to about when we were sitting in that living room at Granny's, you know, and there was like 30-something of us, 50-something of us all sitting together. There was genuinely probably like 1,000 of us there, because the entire queenship of heaven
Right.
was there with Mary, the angels, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit,
Right.
all sitting with us.
Right.
And I've always heard as a kid that whenever you're saying the rosary, that they're joining with you, and when you're in Mass, even any empty spot is an angel sitting next to you.
Right.
If there's an empty spot in the pew somewhere, there's always angels. There's always Mary, the Lord Himself is all sitting there with you.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
It's pretty
Absolutely.
amazing. So I'll leave y'all with this to think about. If you had to go to battle, wouldn't you want it to be with the one who would leave the 99 just for you? All you have to do is surrender to Him. So you have the choice. What will it be?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Marking Milestones podcast. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe and share with friends and family. And as always, leave your mark.